Hey guys, so Aleph will be coming to GL Reverse 999 and this video will talk about his kit and whether should you pull for him. So first of all, what is his role? Obviously, he will be in impromptu team, but in that team, if you look into all the impromptu units, they all kind of have something that will buff impromptu's damage, right? But specifically for Aleph, I would consider him as the ultimate of impromptu, not as in he's the ultimate character, but he's basically like if you have any other team that you play, usually you have like a 3-round rotation where the other 2 rounds you're setting up, and in the 3rd round you use the ultimate and do big damage. So Aleph is that. He does that for impromptu, providing impromptu the opportunity or basically one turn where impromptu will do a very huge amount of damage. And because he's in such an AP hungry team, like you have Baccarola, maybe Voyager, so his kit has AP +1, which then helps in terms of maintaining everyone's rotation. So let's talk about Aleph AP +1 first. So his first skill is a 1-target attack, and it provides continuous action. And also, if Aleph have Eureka, it will consume 2 Eureka and you will grant 1 attack instant to impromptu incantation. So practically this attack incantation is the same as a lot of other impromptu units like Voyager, Arena. They do have an attack incantation and all of them will +1 to impromptu's incantation. Except for Baccarola, because Baccarola has added effect, right? Like it add, I think if not mistaken, at 2 instants to impromptu incantation instead of 1, and the other one will boost up impromptu's damage. So if you put that into perspective, this incantation actually, if you compare it to the others, except for Baccarola's, is the best incantation. So you would want to use it every round, especially because it has that +1 AP effect. And because of that, since you are going to use it very often, you can keep Aleph at P0 and it will still be fine. But I will talk about his Portray in a moment after I discuss about his kit. So the second skill is a buff, and the second skill provides the whole party with 1 stack of clarification. If he has Eureka, then it will consume 2 Eureka and grants another stack of clarification. So clarification increases the incantation might of the party by 10%, 1 stack. So with 4 stacks is 40%. And the most important thing, however, is actually not the incantation might. We want to maintain clarification buff. That's because when the party has this buff, and when the party members, allies, actively cast an incantation, Aleph will consume 1 Eureka, and when impromptu attacks the enemy, it will inflict interpretation on the target, right? So if let's say Aleph have 5 Eureka, and then that turn you cast 5 incantation, then Aleph will inflict up to 5 stacks of interpretation on the enemy. And because of this interpretation, so you would want the party to always be in clarification status, and since clarification lasts for 3 rounds, so at least if you are not too concerned over the incantation might, you should at least cast this every 3 rounds. So what is interpretation? So interpretation is a debuff. It reduces the mental defense of the enemy and the damage taken reduction. So it makes them receive more damage. And if you have more stacks of interpretation, so the first stacks will give them -10%, and every subsequent stacks will be 2%. Maximum is 8 stacks. Okay, so 10% plus 7 more stacks of 2%, so total about 24% reduction. But as mentioned, you need Eureka in order to inflict interpretation. If you want to inflict maximum of 5 stacks per turn, because there's 5 AP, 5 active incantation that you are casting, you need 5 Eureka. But do not forget, Aleph S1, S2 all consume Eurekas. So the next question is how to maintain the Eureka. what should I prioritize and giving the Eureka to? Should it be given to have more clarification stacks? Or should it be given to inflict more debuff? Or should it be given to S1 so that there's more instant of attack? Okay, so let me talk about the Eureka first. So here, max Eureka from Insight 1 is +2. That gives him a total of 7 Eureka. But every round, at the start of each round, he will only gain 4 Eureka. And each time a unit, or this time this unit, which is Aleph himself, consume Eureka, there's a 25% chance to recover 1 Eureka. So if this round he consumes up to 4 Eureka, there's a chance that he will get 1 Eureka. So let's just say he has 5 Eureka per round. So 5 Eureka per round, you use S1, that's 2 gone. And if you use S2, that's 2 gone. You only have 1 Eureka left. Or in certain rounds, like you don't have to use S2 every single round, but S1 you want to use it every round because you want to maintain that +1 AP. To me, that will be the priority. So you either have 1 Eureka or 3 Eureka left. Okay, so which means you either are able to inflict 3 stacks of interpretation or 1 stack of interpretation. So when you add that up together, you will not be able to manage to inflict that much interpretation. So here you are looking at, in order to inflict more, you either use lesser S2. If you use lesser S2, then your incantation might will be lower. So instead of 40%, maybe it will be just 10 or 20%. So here you are trading off 20% incantation might with perhaps 10% of mental defense down or damage taken reduction. So which should you prioritize? For me, I suggest to prioritize on clarification because Aleph ultimate does make impromptus every single attack inflict interpretation, regardless if Aleph has Eureka or not, right? So basically when you cast Aleph ultimate, the next round when the ultimate is triggered, then all the impromptu attack, which usually is more than 10, will inflict interpretation, and the maximum is 8, right? So you will for sure be able to inflict all 8 on the main enemy. So talking about his ultimate, it's a stealth channel. So Aleph will memorize the first 2 basic incantation that is actively cast, and it will enter this hyperthermia status for 1 round. So the hyperthermia status will trigger at the start of the next attacking round. So which means in the next round you will still need to select your incantation on which you want to use, and only after you select that, then hyperthermia will trigger, and then you will add the 2 incantation to the attack list, allowing us to attack more. And whatever that he memorized, not only the rank will be maintained, but also the inspiration that is on that incantation will be brought forth to the next round. So this will increase more instances of attack for impromptu and also increase the overall inspiration for impromptu, making that specific turn impromptu will hit like a truck. So for illustration, I would suggest when you have all your incantation there, and which one will you select to memorize? Select the one with the highest inspiration and the one that will add 1 instance of attack to impromptu. Okay, don't use the buff incantation because that doesn't add any instant of attack on to impromptu, right? So choose the one that adds the attack but has the highest inspiration. Use them, then use Aleph ultimate. Okay, don't use Aleph ultimate first, especially if you are using Aleph incantation, because after the ultimate he technically cannot use any more incantation, so that will disappear. Okay, so please beware of that. So the first 2 incantation will be memorized, and then it will be placed at the back of the attacks during the next round. Okay, as you can see from what I show you on the screen. Now, since hyperthermia will not trigger until the start of the attacking phase, during the turn when you are selecting which incantation to use, Aleph incantation will be darkened out, but we can select it, and it doesn't mean that he will not cast it. because after he released himself from the hyperthermia status, then he will use whatever that we have selected, even though it was darkened before, right? So don't worry about it, just select whatever you want, especially to maintain the +1 AP. Now, in terms of his ultimate damage, if we are assuming that every round, you can consistently get maybe about 15 inspiration per round, and then you get, that will give you like 10 instances of attack. So 15 inspiration is about 425% mental damage, and 10 attacks is about 4000% mental damage. Now, if you consider Aleph to be in the party, every round you will probably still get 15, but the round that he releases hyperthermia, you get +2 instances due to hyperthermia. And then because you have extra 2 incantation, likely your inspiration will be over 20. Okay, so +2 due to over 20 inspiration. So, and +2 more because of the 2 incantation. And as I suggest, use the one that plus attack instances of attack to impromptu. So let's say that gives you 6 extra attacks. And because of that 2 attack, if you select the one with the highest inspiration, so let's assume that you add another 10 inspiration to the original 15, and that will give you 25 inspiration. Okay, so that will be 575% mental damage for 16 times. And for the last attack, there's additional, based on every interpretation, there's 80% mental damage. So 8 interpretation, that's extra 640%. So when you add that all up, he's doing like over 9000% mental damage, which is more than double the previous. So this is how Aleph becomes the ultimate for the impromptu team. In terms of his rotation, here if you consider Baccarola needing 3 AP to 2 AP per round, especially if you want to quickly apply quartet, or else you can spread it out to every 3 rounds. Voyager, you can do it every 3 rounds, so she needs like 2, 2, 1, 5 AP over the 3 rounds, because there's Moxie +1 from her ultimate, so she just needs 4 more to re-trigger her ultimate. Baccarola technically is the same, has +1 on her ultimate, so she needs 4, so both of them need 10 AP. Okay, if you are considering the slower cycle for Baccarola. If it's a fast cycle, you need 13 AP. Technically, there's not enough AP for Aleph to do anything much. So again, if we slow down Baccarola a little bit, then you will have enough. You have 5 APs, right? However, if you look into the rotation that I recommend, you don't technically need a 5 AP in 3 rounds, because it's quite hard to set Aleph up in 3 rounds. That's because of how his ultimate works. The turn you use the ultimate, you cannot use any more incantation after that. But if you use the incantation before that, then the Moxie will be wasted. Okay? You can use it after that just for Moxie, but it will not contribute to Impromptu's attack, so I don't really recommend that. So the turn you use ultimate, you still have to use S1, and you want to use S1 before the ultimate for the +1 AP. So that Moxie definitely will be wasted. So it's kind of like, that would be something nice if impromptu in the future, maybe Aleph or Kiparina, okay, or Baccarola, Euphoria or something, will have Moxie overflow. Okay, or else there will be quite a lot of wasted Moxie when you're using Aleph at the moment. But anyway, in round 2, during the burst phase, you don't have to use anything, but this is provided that if S1 was the incantation that you memorize. If you do not memorize Aleph S1, then I would suggest to use S1 during the burst phase. Okay, then in round 3, you use S2, and then S1, and then round 4, you use S1 again, round 5, you use S2, now you have 4 stacks, then you use S1. But when it comes to the next round, when you repeat back the round you use ultimate, the buff clarification actually reduces back. So you actually got like 2 stacks when you are in the ultimate and burst phase. So that's like 20% incantation might only. So this is how his rotation is. It takes a bit long, probably like 5 rounds in order for you to cycle through. However, the thing is that most enemy, most of the fight will probably end it by the time you release his ultimate and you enter the burst phase, if you do it right, even without the full quartet for Barcarola, you will be able to kill most of the enemy, if not all, especially during the time when Aleph is released. Now, some of you might ask, what if I use P1? Would that make his rotation better? So I do some simulation. I think it's not really better, but the only good thing is that now you can maintain the incantation might up to 40% quite comfortably. Yeah, so if that is something that you are chasing for, then you can go for P1. Yes, and one more thing is that you are subjected lesser to the RNG. The fact that you have to use S1 every round is actually very susceptible to RNG, because when you reset the incantation and you have one of the character's ultimate there, you might not be able to use Aleph S1. So if you have his P1, then it can guarantee that you have the AP plus 1 every single round. Okay, so here I recommend you use S2 every other round in order to maintain the 4 stack of clarification to get a 40% incantation might. Then you use out. Then during your burst phase, make sure to use S1 to get back your AP plus 1. And then the thing is that round 3, you probably don't want to use S1 because AP plus 1 is still there. But if you don't use it, then you don't have enough Moxie to get back his ultimate. So you will make his rotation even longer. So in the end, after I do some simulation, I still decided that you can do this, like round 3, S2, S1. If you don't want to use S1 in round 3, you can use it in round 4. But in round 5, you still have to use S2 and S1. So somewhat the S1 will somehow overlap. Okay? So to me, which is why P1 is not to say like necessary. It's definitely good to have. Make your rotation a bit easier, less susceptible to RNG, can get higher incantation might. And I think the Eureka consumption, the chance to recover Eureka increases to 50. So this increases the interpretation that he can inflict on the enemy. So overall, it's quite a good upgrade. So P1 is still definitely good if you have the resources. For me, I would prefer to get more characters instead of focusing on one at this moment. I know some of you are, you want to build up one team to be really, really good. But the fact that Reverie exists, so I do want to have diversity in my roster in order to tackle all the fight and the lockout stages in Reverie. Especially with 450 meter coming, mentioned in CN, we should at least prepare for it. Anyway, P2 increases the incantation that he can memorize up to 3. And now interpretation, mental defense down, and damage taken reduction, increases by 1%. So maximum it would be like 31% instead of 24. Okay, not like a very huge increase. However, able to memorizing 3 incantation will make impromptu hit way harder than it already does. Okay, P3 increases the damage that he does with the ultimate, or not he does, impromptu does. Same goes as P4 and P5, which is just further increasing impromptu's damage. So the best stopping point I would say is P2, or to make things more comfortable is then P1. Okay, otherwise P0 is good enough. For his Psychube, when the incantation cast by the team within one single round exceed 4, remember he provide AP plus 1, so every round he will already give damage dealt 6% to all allies. And during the hyperthermia round, then you get the extra 2 more incantation, right? So then you can get 18% damage dealt to all allies for that round. But basically, it's just to boost impromptu's damage. And if the carrier is intelligence status, he also provide up to 9% of incantation might. Okay, so overall, I think it's a pretty good incantation. I was even thinking that it can be used for other intellect character, like 6, as it provides some party buff. Okay, however, I won't suggest you to like amplify it to level 5. Anyway, if you are using Aleph like without Barcarola, then I would suggest Aleph to be using Audio Coda, because that Psychube is crazy for impromptu. Okay, so But if Baccarola is there, then you use Audio Coda on Baccarola. Last and not least, should you pull? Okay, first of all, if you like impromptu and you are missing one unit, that is fine. If you are planning to get Keep Arena, you have Voyager, that is fine. If you have Regulus and you know that she will be getting impromptu as well, then Keep Arena and Aleph is also fine if you do not have Baccarola. As long as you have at least 3 units of impromptu, you should be good. Okay? Skip, again, if you don't like impromptu, you think you have a very strong roster and you are planning for like getting Nautica, or you already have like Lucy and Outreach will be free, so you have the Dynamo team. So you don't need another, because their power level is like almost similar, but I do still think impromptu is very, very close to what Nautica can do, and probably less restrictive. Okay, yeah, so I actually favors impromptu at the moment, although my account did not have Baccarola, which I was planning to skip impromptu from the beginning. But yeah, I'm gonna get Aleph. Okay, but if you are building up a roster like you are new, and do you remember, again, Reverie has a lot of conditions you need to meet. So chasing after character that has certain utilities will be more important than getting Aleph. So I really do think so. So if you are having problems with Reveries, that you are lacking some utility to fulfill and win Reverie, then I think you should skip Aleph and focus on trying to get those utility first. Am I pulling? Again, if it was previously, I will actually skip, but lately, because of the increase in number of views that I have in YouTube, so thank you very much for those that subscribe. So I do have some additional income from the game now, or from YouTube now, that I can put this money back into into Reverse 999 in order to get more units, so I can do better showcase for you guys. Okay, if you are wondering how much I'm earning, it's not that much, but it's enough for me to throw everything back into Reverse in order to get these units. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching and have a good day.